All right. Yeah, we're started. All right.
Hey, we started.
All right. All right. Well, hey, everybody, and welcome into Talking Tuscaloosa. Luke Robinson along with Jimmy Stein. As always, Jimmy, how are you today?
I'm fine. Fine. Busy breaking up homes.
Just you really are kind of a heartbreaker.
Literally. Yep.
Yeah.
I tell you, I do a lot of divorce work. I do a lot of personal injury work. So the vast majority of people are coming to my office either getting divorced or in a custody dispute or owe child support, or they've been in an accident. And I tell you, when I first meet people professionally, like no one's coming to me happy. No one. No, I every now and then I'm real jealous over like CPAs where people walk in and you're meeting them and they're like, we won the lottery and we need an accountant.
Yeah.
I mean, I never get that. I always get you know, my wife is leaving me for my dad or
You,
or
well, that's
or
what's funny about that is I had lunch with a couple of lawyers today, and
oh gosh.
they were saying that we were talking about how much sex everybody else seems to be having.
Wowza.
They
This
said,
is a lawyer at lunch?
yeah, but they said, based on all these divorce cases we got, everybody's screwing everybody. And he said, it's apparently like out there for everybody. He said, why didn't I see it? Where was it when I was doing stuff?
Well, they didn't invent sex till recently. So
Apparently.
I had a great aunt tell me one time that she was like the neatest little lady of all time, and I was probably 18, so she was probably in her 70s back then. She was a sweet old lady, and I don't know, some song was on the radio that was kind of suggestive, in roughly 1988, and she was kind of shaking her head, and of course wanting to turn the channel on the radio, and she just mentioned, not necessarily to me, but just mentioned out loud. She's like, "Why does every generation believe they invented sex?" And I don't know, it's always stuck with me.
No, that's true. And I mean, because I bet you there were some freaks back in the 1700s too. I mean, there had to.
Oh, heck yeah, back in the wooden teeth era. I don't know what that had to do with anything, but it sounds.
Well, you say something sexy like, "You want to go back to my place and you can take your teeth out." Hey,
or this time when we start a fire, we'll try not to burn the cabin down again.
Hey, the only, hey, there's more wood to me than just my teeth.
It's all wood here. It's all wood here.
I would you? That'd be good. That's a good license plate. I had a friend who had a license. His name was Will, and he had.
Yeah, my teeth are pine, but I've got a mighty fine oak elsewhere.
Oh God, that's too long, man.
It takes a look.
Can you get that on a coffee mug?
It wasn't a popular bumper sticker on horse carriages back in the day.
I had a friend named Will, and he had a personalized license plate, and on the front it said "I will," and on the back it was "Will you." It's pretty good.
That's not bad. You had to know his name was Will going in.
Yeah, that is true.
It's a little funnier that way.
Yeah, if you didn't know, if his name was Frank, you'd kind of suck.
Yeah, you're like, this is the worst joke ever, Frank.
Frank, you're not very good at personalized license plates.
Yet another weakness to go along with your wooden teeth.
So we got big camps going on right now at the University of Alabama. What have you heard so far?
Oh, well, I mean, first of all, one upside, and I guess this could lead to a little bit of a rant. One thing that this staff, going back now 10 or 11 years, has been really adamant about compared to previous Alabama staffs is they really want all the kids that are going to sign with us to be in camp. They want to evaluate them in camp, whether they're committed or not, whether they take their commitment prior to camp or not. They want them all in camp and to work with them hands-on and to make their evaluation in person, doing specific drills and coaching them in camp. And they're insistent upon it. And while it has backfired with some kids, because some kids get negatively recruited because of that. What happens is, let's say a kid's got an offer with LSU and Alabama, and Alabama's telling the kid, hey, you got to come to camp if you want to play for us. You want to commit here and us to take your commitment. You got to come to our camp. And LSU tells the same kid, hey, you think Tom Cruise has to audition for a role Does Tom Cruise have to audition for Mission Impossible? No, they're asking you to audition because they don't believe in you. We do. You don't have to come to our camp. We'll take you right now. So we get that backlash a little bit for doing it this way. But let me tell you, Nick Saban, who's 10 times smarter than everyone else, this thing about having these kids in camp basically means our camps are a collection of the best players in the country. We must have the best line of prospects in the country at our camps, which makes the camps more valuable because now the kids are working out against the best of their peers. It's just all but benefits Alabama. So the camps are huge. They changed all the rules again. And now I believe, this could be wrong, Luke, but I'm pretty sure it's true, that all of our camps now must take place in June. All of the camping is June alone. So it's a very busy month because I think we have 2 or 3 camps for older kids. And then there's also a camp for younger kids where it's obviously a lot less recruiting at those things. But I think basically June is now a wall-to-wall month of camp, be it at Alabama or be these satellite camps that the coaches go to now. I think we're going to one that Florida International is running, and there'll be Alabama coaches working that camp. But anyway, yeah, camp month is big. I call it committed camp month because Alabama insists on seeing kids at camp, and they come to camp and they show out. So lots of kids get camp offers, and there's usually a handful of camp commitments that will take place, and I'm expecting it to happen. In terms of specific kids, you don't really know until they work out, but I'm expecting Alabama to land 2, 5, maybe even 6 kids this month.
Yeah, I mean, certainly hope so. It would be a dang good start.
We do most years.
I'm hoping all of them are defensive linemen too.
I'd say 6. I mean, when people ask numbers, I wouldn't be surprised, Luke. I think the number is 6. Obviously, they would take 5. They might take more than 6 if it's the right guy. You don't tell somebody like an Ishmael Sopsher, sorry, we were taking 6 and you're number 7, so we don't have room for you. I mean, you make room for a Sopsher type, prospect. But I think 6 defensive linemen, which is we only have 3 on the field, technically. I mean, in regular, we have 3 defensive linemen, 2 ends, and a nose guard. For us to sign 6 is a humongous class. If you think about it, it's akin to signing 10 offensive linemen, where you have 5 of them on the field at once. So taking 6 DLs is a huge group, but I'm anticipating it happening because we only have 9 on scholarship right now, and we're going to lose 2 or 3 of those guys. Bugs is a senior, Raekwon likely to go pro early, Johnny Dwight's a senior. So we'll have 6 guys returning. That's just woefully low on numbers. So I say 6. And what do we got so far? We got DJ Dale, Rashard Cheney, and Antonio Alfano, right? So we got 3 in, and I think there'll be 3 more at least. I forget how to say his name. The Hawaiian kid, is it Tuyateli? Tuyateli, I believe is how you say his name. Yeah, Tuyateli. He is a very good chance he commits. Sopsher is a huge target for us. I wouldn't say it. Okay, maybe it's fair to say it's 50-50 Alabama LSU. I think LSU is still a more likely destination for me for Sopsher. Not just, I mean, we'll have to see how LSU season goes, whether Orgeron's going to be the coach again next year, who they hire. Because if LSU's hiring a new coach, all that's likely to happen before the December signing day. What if Sopsher's like, well, Orgeron's gone, so I'm going to Alabama, but then they hire somebody that gets him really excited. And so with him, I'm not going to be too confident until the ink's on the paper because he's so important to LSU. There's 3 or 4 kids in Mississippi I know we would strongly consider taking. My favorite of the group is Nathan Pickering from Seminary, Mississippi, but Byron Young is also a very good prospect, as is Handy, and even Charles Moore from Louisville, Mississippi is a good player. I think ending up with one of those Mississippi kids is very likely. Kind of hard to tell which one right now. My hope would be Pickering, who I think is fantastic. I compare Pickering to Sopsher and Alfano in terms of how good I think he is. I think I'll tend to rate him a little higher than everyone else, but that's how I feel about that guy.
Yeah, I think he's pretty fantastic, and he's universally in the top 10 nationally. It looks like for all the recruiting services.
Right. He's a check every box guy. He plays at a small school. That's the negative. But let me tell you, but his measurables are legit. I don't worry about the small school thing if the measurables are the real deal. And he's been to camps and he's been measured and he checks all those boxes. And you'd expect a guy to be dominant with those measurables at the level he plays at, and he is. He is totally dominant. He, even at his size, he appears to be on tape the best athlete on the field. So I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's great. Y'all know how I feel about Antonio Alfano. He'll be one of my favorites in this group, regardless of who we get. Really strong class for us in the front seven, because those positions are so loaded. We need front seven guys, and heck, if you're a kid and you're a front seven kid, where else would you want to play? Alabama's a one-way ticket to the first round of the NFL draft.
Yeah, there's certainly no doubt about that. And also congratulations to Minkah for his big contract he signed last week. And, you know, I saw something, just really going off on a tangent here. I saw something from, I think, ESPN talking about how all the first round picks are doing to date. And each one of Alabama's was right on course, which is, I think, their best that you could say about them. I mean, like, this is doing as well as can be expected or whatever the hell. It was something like that. I'm getting lost in semantics here, but there were some other ones that were like too soon to tell, or, you know, maybe not performing the way they want to, but each one of Alabama's 4 picks was up there. I think that's real positive.
I'm not surprised. You know, one thing, it's kind of an upside downside thing, as most. The upside is, I think Alabama staff and Nick Saban train these kids so well and train them professionally that when our kids show up, as a general rule, can't be true across the board, but as a general rule, when our kids show up in these NFL camps, they're ahead of the curve. They've already practiced in an NFL style practice, coming from an NFL style system, practicing against other pro type players every single day. That's why I think our kids make such a quick, good transition, and why there's so many Alabama first round picks is for that reason. Now, here's the downside, which will be surprising to some people, but it really is just a fact. And I'll give you a good example in a minute. But some argue that Alabama players are as good as they're ever going to get when they show up, that the upside is over, that they're finished products, whereas other kids maybe you get from another program, just to rudely pick one out of the air, a Kansas State, that kid shows up and there's a lot of improving left to do because that kid hasn't been in an NFL style system coached by professional coaches playing against other professional type players, and there's a lot of improvement there, whereas the Alabama guys is sort of a done deal. I tell you, it's a little bit of an apples to oranges analogy, but it explains it really well. Look at Jamar King, who sort of had a disappointing career at Alabama in the sense that you expect him to come in, you expect him to be an impact guy. He shows up and doesn't really get on the field in 2 or 3 years. He just doesn't even really get on the field, despite having really good measurables in terms of size and athleticism. He can't get on the field. And the reason being, in retrospect, was when we signed the guy, Luke, he's 27 years old. He's not going to get any better. He's not. This guy is, these 18-year-olds we sign improve tremendously their first couple of years on campus and explode and mature into these professional adult athletes. But Jamar King, he showed up at a certain level and he stayed at that level because he was 27 and 28 years old. And
okay, I get you. I get what you're saying. Yeah. But let me take this another way. If I'm an NFL GM, and apparently they feel the same way as me, you could look at somebody like Minkah Fitzpatrick. See, frankly, though, even at pick 11, I think Minkah Fitzpatrick was undersold. And I think that, yes, while you're correct, it's so funny. This happens especially in basketball, and I think maybe even especially in baseball, where they take potential over production, to date. And I get that to a degree. The other side of it is there's no guarantee the potential's ever going to come out.
Correct.
So that's what is so bothersome to me. But GMs are so scared of missing on the next big thing that they don't take the sure thing right in front of them. And
potential is a French word. The meaning is hasn't done shit yet.
That is hasn't done merde yet. That's French for shit. Okay. But You're just going to take my
We're
word for it?
talking for. I was contemplating how you knew that, and I don't think they speak. Do they speak French in Bali or wherever you went?
I went to India. How the hell did you? I went to India.
Oh yeah. That's isn't Bali over there.
But number one, I took several years of French in high school.
Oh really?
And in college. But I don't remember any of it except the word shit.
That was your question on the first day of class when you were like in the 9th grade. What's the French word for shit? And they tell you, and you're like, that's all I need to know. I'm out of here.
I got this. Put me down for an A, bitches. Love bitches.
Love bitches.
But
oh, that's funny.
So I do have 2 French cousins, and they're here right now. And
nice.
you know, I'll tell you, you know how we love to interject stories here, and I'll interject a story. So my cousin married a Frenchman, and so when the Frenchman came to Alabama, he knew English pretty well. He's a smart guy. I mean, they've since divorced, all this other shit. But smart guy, nice guy, and he comes to Alabama, and he was worried about the language barrier because he knows English, but it's, you know, you can know English and go to Ohio and you're fine. You go to Alabama or New York or somewhere like that, you can be a little bit off and you can get sort of lost in it and the linguistics of it all. And so my uncle said, look, he said, when you come here, you don't really have to speak in English. You have to know 2 things. Say, know this, you know that's right, or tell me about it. He said, that can get you out of any situation. He said, so if somebody says, hey man, it sure is hot outside, you go, tell me about it. You know, that's what he was doing like the whole trip. He was, you know, that's right. I don't even know if that's a good French accent.
No, the funny thing about that story to me is I think that's an amusing story. And then after you're living it, and the guy has said it like the 50th, it gets funnier every time.
Oh yeah.
That gets funnier every time.
Well, and also at the time, then they had 2 children who are my French cousins. They're visiting here right now, by the way. And one of them's name is Lucy. She's 20 and she's going to college in the States. The other one's 18 going to college in the States too. But when Lucy was a little girl, she was about 2 years old. She used to come here and this was 18 years ago. So I was like 27. So I mean, it was just so much fun. I'd take her and throw her up in the air and she'd come back down. She would laugh and she'd go, encore, encore. And I'd go, you know, I always wanted a woman to tell me encore. I just didn't think it'd be my 2-year-old cousin. So, or maybe I'm from Alabama. Maybe I did think that.
Not a way to share your R-rated jokes with a 2-year-old.
I know. It was awkward when I said it then, and it's awkward.
An R-rated joke to an R-rated joke to a 2-year-old. You might as well thrown your French word for shit into the joke. Hey, did you know that? Hey, don't say shit. You're only 2. Say what'd you say it was?
Married. Essentially.
M-A-R-I-D?
No, I think it's M-E-R-D-E or something like that. M-E-R-D-E.
You have to teach me like you would teach it to any other 2-year-old.
Well, I'll just say, hey, shut up, you little merd, and let me tell you my shitty joke, my meredy joke.
My meredy. I'm sure that's how they say it.
No, they don't say it like that.
They don't. I didn't think they probably would.
But it is. I mean, it is fun having them here because also it was so funny the other day. Like Noah, my other cousin who's 18, he and I play tennis against each other all the time, and we were talking about some show, and I was like, "Yeah, that show is Jump the Shark. That show's Jump the Shark." He's like, what is this shark they are jumping? And I was like, man, you don't even know about Jump the Shark. I say, all right, I gotta, you know, I had to tell him the whole Jump the Shark story.
You had to take a 40-minute story to talk about Fonzie jumping a shark.
I know, and I mean, I could see in his eyes the whole time, like, Americans are so stupid.
Yeah, his eyes glossed over after like the first 30 seconds of the 10-minute story.
Yeah,
and then you're like, he was even wearing his leather jacket.
I swear to God, I said that.
He was wearing his leather jacket. He was.
I mean, like I told him the whole episode. I mean,
I think I was 8 or 9, or maybe even 10 by the time that Happy Days came out when Fonzie literally jumped the shark. And I think I remember even at 10 going, okay, they've just lost. This show has just lost it. They've lost it. I mean, why is there a shark in a cage offshore? What kind of cage? Why is the shark in the cage? Why didn't the shark just jump over, get out of the cage?
It's so stupid. Do you think that people, when they're making these shows, like these shows that go on too long, do you think they know? Okay, when they're like editing the show, they're like, "Oh shit, we just jumped the shark," and we didn't know it in the moment. But like now that I'm watching the edit of this sucks ass.
Wouldn't you pay like literally $100 to be in the room when the writers came up with the idea of Fonzie jumping the shark? Like, don't you want to be in the room to either stop it from happening, like shooting Hitler, when he was 13? You want to be in the room. You want to be in the room when they're like, okay, here's my idea. The Cunninghams go to Hawaii and they meet this cool guy who's great as a water skier, and Fonz is going to out water ski him with some sort of trick. Well, what trick? What trick can Fonzie do? How about there's these sharks, right? And he skis up a ramp and he jumps over the sharks like an Evel Knievel thing. And other people in the room are going like, that's fantastic.
Yeah. My
10-year-old self is sitting there going, have you guys lost your effing minds? That's the worst idea in the history of television.
Do you remember the Simpsons when Danny DeVito was Homer Simpson's brother, like long lost brother, and he was like,
it was kind of like an off thing of twins, was it?
Yeah, but no, he was a famous. Yeah, he kind of was, but he was a famous like car manufacturer or inventor or something. And he said, Homer, you're an everyman, and I want to invent a car for every man. And Homer built this real piece of shit with and he said, those cars that have tennis balls on the antenna so that people can find them in the parking lot? Everybody should have those. And so he put them on every car. And the guy never checked on him or anything. And he just comes out there and goes, holy shit, I just lost my fortune because of you. So that's what that's what ABC probably thought. I think Happy Days on ABC when that ABC execs sat down to watch the Jump the Shark episode. They were probably just in there with their families, like, oh, great, here comes Happy Days, our most popular television show. Oh, shit, my career is ruined.
My career is ruined.
Thanks a lot, Henry Winkler, you douchebag.
Although, ironically, the irony to all ironies, it was the highest rated show on TV for years and is a part of American history. And what episode 30 years later are we sitting here talking about the most? That one.
I wonder if that's the name of the episode.
Fonz jumps the shark. There was probably other stupid shit Fonzie did that whole season, but that's what everybody remembers because it was so incredibly dumb that as a 10-year-old, I literally have been in the room going, you guys have all lost your jobs. You'll never work in TV again. This is the worst idea of all worst ideas.
No, but the only way that show could have recovered was if the next episode, Potsy surprisingly yet definitively beats Fonzie's ass.
That would have been great.
For no reason. Like Fonz walks in, he's like, hey, and he hits the jukebox, and Potsy goes, you know what, you son of a bitch, you've hit that jukebox for the last time, and just pummels his ass. And Fonz is bleeding. He takes his leather jacket from him. It'd be great.
TV is so much better now. I say this, TV is so much better than it used to be. And I'll say this as a little guy, I'm only 5'8". Henry Winkler is supposed to be some sort of a badass. Henry Winkler's smaller than me. I mean, he's my size. And everyone in Milwaukee is scared of this guy. That's nuts.
And I forgot, for whatever reason, I forgot that show was in Milwaukee. Oh, my God.
It was Milwaukee. Nick Saban. Nick Saban. I guess Fonzie was the Dick Saban of his generation. Everybody's scared of Nick. He's not too big.
Have we ever signed somebody from Wisconsin under Saban? Do you remember anybody?
Trying to think. No.
Okay, but then Saban, if there ever is a good, and I think there is a good prospect in Wisconsin.
Pierce Baker is from Iowa. There is a good prospect from Wisconsin.
And he's like a top 10 guy. If Saban would go to Wisconsin wearing a freaking leather jacket, oh my God, you talk about the badass moves.
Hey, and is there no doubt that Nick could just lean up against a jukebox and hit it with his elbow and it would come on? I have no doubt that's true. I'm sure that would happen.
Oh, there's no doubt that would happen. Of course, he can't get his boat to work, but.
Hey, remind me of this. 10 years from now, when the Saban dynasty is over, we'll talk about the moment that the Saban dynasty jumped the shark.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to tie this in and say we could talk about it when what was the moment for several coaches that you knew they jumped the shark?
In retrospect, I mean, this is one, when you say that and I bring up something in the first minute, and this just shows how fans are. Now, I was much younger then, dumber then than I am now, which should explain a lot. But I remember in 1997 reading, I guess it was right about the time the internet was created. So I probably got this out of the Tuscaloosa News. And I remember excitedly reading because I was like, oh, this is going to be great. What a great idea. When Mike Dubose came up with the idea that, look, this is what we're going to do. Freddie Kitchens is going to be the quarterback, most downs. And then every third series, we're going to put in Lance Tucker. And then John David Phillips, he's going to be the quarterback on the goal line because we can run some option stuff. And I thought at the time, I'm like, this is genius. No one's going to be prepared for this. This is a great idea. Why didn't everybody do this? This is the best idea I've ever heard. Now I'll look back on it being slightly smarter than I am, than I was when I was 27 years old. Slightly smarter. I look back on it and go, why didn't we fire him that day? He should have been fired that day. That day that he says, hey, this is what we're going to do. They should bring him in and say, Mike, this isn't working out. You have jumped the shark. There are sharks in a cage in Hawaii, and you put on a leather jacket and you jump these sharks when all you had to do was just bang your elbow against a jukebox and play the song again. You did this instead, and now we've got to let you go because we have to cancel the show now. The whole show's been canceled.
I would say for Dubose, he jumped the shark when he was announced as the head football coach and he was at his press conference. I will never, and again,
I remember where I was.
But I will never forget listening to his press conference. I got in my car.
Yeah, I was in the car.
Because I was part of the dumbass fax brigade.
I did too.
I'm so mad. I'm
so mad at 1997, Jimmy. I can't stand it.
I hate 97. But
97 Luke and 97 Jimmy were just flat out.
I hate it. If I could go back in time and kick my ass at 97, I would do it in a heartbeat. And your ass. And I'd take Potsy with me.
Feel free. Yeah, Potsy ought to just annihilate us both.
But when he read, I'll never forget, I got in my car to listen to his press conference, man. And I got in my car and I was listening to it. And he sounded like such a moron. And I rationalized it. I was like, he just loves us so much. He loves the whole university. And he sounded so stupid. And I was, why didn't I see it?
Wow.
And then I'll tell you when we can go down each Alabama coach, I guess. When did Franchione jump the shark Franchione jumped the shark in that, there's no doubt, in that Auburn game in the 2002 Auburn game, he jumped the shark. You could, because we should have won that game.
We had a better team. We were a better team than Auburn and lost the game. That hasn't happened much. Usually the best team wins that game, by the way. Usually whoever's better between Alabama and Auburn wins that game. We were the better team in 2002 and we lost. Now in 2001, they might have been better than us and we stole one from them. So maybe
we were the better team last year, Jimmy.
But we were the better team. Yeah, we were a better team last year and lost the game. So again, it doesn't happen much. Of course it happens. It's football. Syracuse beat Clemson last year. It happens. But I wouldn't say. I knew Fran was leaving after the big meeting with he had a meeting with John McMahon and Mal about staying, and they thought he was staying, but and he left the next morning. To me, there was never a time, though, when I look back on, I know the 2002 Auburn game we shouldn't have lost. Now that we look back on it and realize that Fran was negotiating with A&M all week, and who knows how much attention he actually paid to the game plan. But I'm just saying myself, there was never a time when I lost confidence that Fran was the right guy. At the time, I thought he was the right guy. I thought in 2001 and 2002 that we had the right guy. In retrospect, the smarter Jimmy realized we never had the right guy. He was never right. He was never a good fit for Alabama, and it was only unique to that point in time when we needed a Fran in 2001 and 2002. We weren't ready for Nick Saban then. We had a whole probation to come. We needed Nick Saban after probation was over and we were Alabama at full strength and hungry to be great again. That's how Nick Saban comes along at the right time. I think Fran was here at the right time. It just only ended up being a 2-year deal because of insecurities. And I know this is highly unpopular. And all three of our fans that listen to the podcast are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. That's fine. I've died on this hill years ago, but I think it's true. But, Fran left because, his point was, look, when these sanctions kick in, there's going to be a lot of losing and you guys are going to fire me. I'm out. And they're trying to convince him, no, we'll give you a contract. We'll give you money. You'll have a contract and you'll have money. And we know that lean times are ahead. You're not going to pay the price for this. We're going to give you a contract that's going to extend beyond that period of time and pay you plenty of money where this doesn't have to be a legit fear for you. And Fran was like, no, when Alabama loses games, this job is going to be hell and you're going to fire me and my life is going to be hell. That was his point. And we'll say he was right. He was right because that's what happened. That's what happened.
But I still hate him.
Fair.
And
that's fair, by the way.
Yeah,
the way he left.
One of my finer college football memories is looking at the scoreboard and seeing Oklahoma 77, Texas A&M nothing.
I do think that happened to him at A&M was very karmatastic. Is that a word?
But I think that you're right. But I also think, that was too easy. That was even too easy for Karma. Karma was like, look, I'm just going to let fate handle this one because this is good. This is too easy. You could look at him and see that he doesn't seem like a trustworthy guy that could recruit people. And that's exactly how it worked out.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. And I do think had Fran been long-term here, it would have ended bad.
Yeah.
It would have ended bad. And the Mike Price thing, had he been long-term, that would have been Mike Price with that offense coaching through the sanctions. We would have gotten our ass kicked repeatedly.
Would have been Washington State.
Exactly. It would have been really bad.
Ironically, he jumped the shark when he got off the plane with that leather jacket.
Didn't he at his initial meet the team thing, he was throwing sugar packets around the room?
Yeah.
About how we're going to see that we should have fired him then.
No, we should have fired him when he got off the plane and that jacket was a medium and he's obviously a 2XL. He needs to go to like one of those special places in the mall for big people. Like, he can't go to a regular store and be like, I need a double XL. Like, no, you need a double X wide, sir. Sir, please get away from the mediums.
Hey, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about Alabama and Alabama football through the coaches. See, I've now got a perspective of I've seen what works here and I've seen what doesn't work. And the similarities between Bryant and Stallings and Saban are numerous. And the similarities between Shula and Dubose and Price and Fran and Curry are also numerous. And it's almost to the point like when the next guy, whenever we announce who the next guy is, I'll almost feel like I could tell you right then in that moment whether it's going to work or not. But I can tell you this, Alabama, you got to have someone in charge, unquestioned, no questions asked. The person needs to be basically bigger than Alabama football.
I agree.
They need to be bigger than Alabama football. And by that, I mean, Nick Saban, Alabama football is a machine. It's a machine the size of a rocket ship that carries the freaking space shuttle to Mars. That's how big Alabama football is. And Nick Saban runs it. Nick Saban runs Alabama football. All those other guys, Alabama football ran them. Alabama football ran Fran. Alabama football ran Mike Shula. Alabama football ran Mike Price and Mike Dubose. You have to have an extremely large CEO personality that is unquestionably in charge. And that's where it has to start right then and there. I don't care what.
Here's the other thing. I don't think you can be gimmicky at Alabama. You have to almost have anti-gimmick. Like Fran was kind of a gimmicky smoke draw, Ryder Mike, nasally turd. Mike Price is all gimmicks. I'm not sure. I guess you would call Mike Dubose gimmicky. I mean, he had some gimmicks, but he was really more about, I guess, untucked shirts were his gimmicks. Shula was gimmicky, the jumbo package and all that crap. We don't need gimmicks. We need line up and play, and we'll get behind you and be tough. That's it.
Does it really matter? Alabama needs to be Clayton Kershaw. Does it really matter that the hitter doesn't know what's coming? I think Clayton Kershaw will be just as successful when he's healthy. And by the way, I realize he's not healthy right now. But well, right now he's not too successful because he's laid up. But I'm just saying that Nolan Ryan, if Nolan Ryan every time before he threw a fastball hollered out at the hitter, "Here comes the fastball," nothing would really change. And that's what Alabama needs to be. Our players are better than your players, period. Right. We're well coached, and our players are better than your guys. And that's the formula. It doesn't have to be some sort of rocket science or, some sort of spread thing where I got 5 receivers running verticals and this guy's going to, you're not going to know who's going to have the ball, and we're going to do a fumble rooski every quarter. And, no. Alabama, like you said, Alabama, we need to have a large personality in charge, and it needs to be simple. And it needs to be built on the fact that our players are better than your players.
That's
pretty much it.
Boy, how that's pretty much it on this shit.
Stupid Fonzie jump the shark. By the way, that we've set this up on the tee for someone to say, and this was the podcast that jumped the shark.
Oh, we have lobbed this softball out there. I mean, no doubt.
Yeah, the joke's on them. We jumped the shark about 2 years ago.
Oh, we're way past. Sharks think we jumped the shark.
We're the worst episode of Happy Days, MASH, and All in the Family combined.
What was that terrible show that came on the CW that tried to be like Married with Children, but it had a dog Muppet, and it had like a guy trying to be Al Bundy, and it had a woman trying to be Peg.
It's so bad. Whatever you're describing is so bad. I honestly didn't.
Oh my God! It was like when this
sound familiar to me. Frankly,
the CW tried.
I'm not talking about Alf.
No, the CW tried to come out and be like Fox because they were trying to replicate what Fox did to be so successful so quickly. And they had a show. It was something like Engaged with Rugrats. I mean, it was something like that was so terrible knockoff of Married with Children. And you can't do only Fox could do Married with Children in that moment. Only Fox. No other program. Not Showtime couldn't have pulled Married with Children off like Fox did. And so anyway, what the hell was I talking about that? What I was trying to say. That's the kind of show we were when we first started this. And so we have continued to be that show. Somehow the CW has continued to renew our contracts. We should be on the CW.
We are the CW.
We're the CW of podcasts.
Crappy white guys.
Crappy and white.
Crappy and white. We're the CW. What other football stuff we got going on?
All right, real quickly, Trey Sanders has just been crystal balled again to Alabama. What's your thoughts?
That's exciting. Let me tell you, in terms of, I've been at a loss to describe what's going to happen to us with running back in this 19 class. Trey Sanders would cure everything. A legit 5-star guy that could step in and he would continue the lineage of Ingram to Lacey to Yeldon to Derrick Henry to Najee to Damian Harris. And if we don't get Trey Sanders, I'm afraid if we just get, and it sounds so insulting, but if we just get a standard back again, 2 classes in a row, we could have a real problem in about 2 years. You know, so we need a big time back in this class because we didn't sign a big time back in the last class. So, man, Trey Sanders, I don't even have another name to give you. I mean, in terms of the running back crop for the second year in a row is really weak. So nobody else is signing a badass back either. But the running back class is really weak. And it was pretty good junior at Hueytown next year. Probably need that.
Roydell Williams.
Roydell Williams. He's a pretty good player. He's good. But until, there's just not an in-state 19 guy. Maybe the kid at Clay Chalkville's okay, and the kid at Hoover's pretty good. There's a kid at Daphne that I'm surprised isn't getting more attention. Maybe he's got grades or something, but Mike Franklin, he's pretty good. But I don't gosh, I hope that Trey Sanders thing was it Shannon Terry? Somebody that's highly credible crystal balled Sanders to Alabama too, wasn't it?
I think, was it Hank South?
Might have been Hank. I mean, it was some very credible to Alabama. So that was
crystal ball figures in. I'm about to read the whole thing. Hang on. It was Hank South, and he talks about the brother.
Hank knows his Meardy. Hank knows his Meardy.
Yeah, he does. He is not a Mared Tet, which is shithead.
Look, we're a wealth of information on this show this week.
Oh, I mean, you're learning all kind of shit you didn't know about. You got it. Whoa, what the hell? You know what I don't like?
That's the FCC. That's the FCC saying we're cursing too much.
That's the
One
French
fan.
embassy saying, please stop.
And you're wrong. It's not. It's the French embassy.
Yeah. First of all, you're saying it wrong, and no, don't do this anymore. Quit begrudging our terrible language. Anything else out there?
I guess Brandon Kennedy, the transfer thing went just as what me and you said all along, which is that Nick Saban took way too much crap for that. None of that was fair. If there was something wrong, if there was something to criticize, it was the rule. They needed to change the rule, and they did. And I'm glad they changed the rule, so we're no longer the bad guy. In fact, I suspect at some point Alabama's going to greatly benefit from this rule change.
Totally agree.
And we'll see what happens.
So Nick Saban, in fact, I think two things really quickly. I think number one, Nick Saban wanted that boat to break down. Because think of all the press he got.
Oh yeah, and he looks so human. He finally, not a cyborg. Yeah, him in his New York Yankees T-shirt.
When there's no question, he could have easily, with his robotic hand, reached into the motor and fixed the problem like Cyborg from Justice League.
Fonzie just would have banged his elbow on that motor; it would have started right up.
He goes, "Hey!" Just hit the motor. The whole shit's going crazy.
And the whole team is like, "Holy shit! There's sharks all over the lake."
Saban's like, "Don't worry, we're jumping them, baby.
We're jumping them."
So, but I think number one, there's no doubt in my mind, Saban calculated the boat breaking down.
Yep.
And
that was a good ruse.
What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, number two, Nick Saban bitched about this rule because he knew people would hate him bitching. So this is the only way the rule would get passed or get overturned, so that now he can purge other people's
That's right. Alabama will need a defensive lineman to come in and start next year in 2019, and I think it makes all the sense in the world. Like, okay, who's the best grad DL in this league, and let's go get him.
He Jedi mind tricked the nation. There's no question in my mind. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that this type rule benefits Alabama more than it benefits anyone else.
It's so nuts. And he even had us fooled. Like, I was trying to defend him with this, and really,
he did the same thing. He did the same thing with
the
up-tempo.
It worked to his benefit.
He was trying to tell everybody this up-tempo football thing is bad for the sport. It's bad for the sport. It's going to get more kids hurt. It's a safety issue. It makes for boring football. It's not real football. It's bad for the sport. It needs to be changed. And when they didn't change it, Nick's like, all right, well, I'll go up tempo and I'll beat everybody's ass.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he's done, and, I think he has these legit concerns about the sport and what the rules should be. And that, but he's going to adjust to whatever the rules are, and he's going to take advantage of whatever the rules are for his benefit. Alabama's the biggest kid on the block, and through any sort of free agency type transfer rule, Alabama's going to benefit.
It's so funny. I mean, I just don't need to even comment on Saban anymore. I need to just sit back and watch, because whatever he does somehow turns to gold. Is really amazing. It really is. We're gonna miss him.
He's the Fonz. He's the Sabes.
Do you think that Jedi's go? Do you think that Obi-Wan Kenobi goes, man, he just used the Saban mind trick on me?
Yeah, Yoda doesn't mess with the Alabama Fonz.
The best football coach he is.
No, I can't think of any. Jalen. Oh, about our two kids at Elite 11. That's a good story.
That is a good story.
Talia in particular did really well at Elite 11, and has made it to the finals. By the way, I mean this sounds like me just hyping an Alabama kid unnecessarily. I told some guys this week, but to me, I watched Tua his junior year tape and his senior year tape, and he was a completely different kid. He made a big jump between his junior and senior year, sort of becoming. I mean, Tua sort of became late in his high school career, what we've seen at Alabama. I watched quite a bit of Talia's junior tape. I'm thinking, from what little I saw of his Elite 11 performance, the fact that he is making it this far, I'm thinking Talia is doing something very similar to Tua. I think he's blossoming late, just like his brother, and is sort of turning into a next level elite kid late, like his brother. And I'm excited about that.
No, I mean, can you imagine having back-to-back brothers? I mean,
well, think of this. I mean, there could be. I mean, for real, a Tungo Valoa could be the Alabama's quarterback for the next 7 years.
That's
or 8 years. I mean, the next 7 or 8 years, we might be quarterbacked by a Tungo Valoa.
God bless you, Hawaii.
Oh yeah, and send us your Tua Tellies while you're at it. Hawaii. Tua Telly.
Is that? Are you trying to do plural of Tungo Valoa?
I mean, I'm terrible with that. I'm terrible.
Oh, you're talking. No, you're trying to do. Okay, the defensive.
The defensive tackle. Yeah, I think it's Tua Telly. Send us your Tua Tellies while you're at it.
All your Tua. We want all your Tua Tellies.
I think there's a junior quarterback in Hawaii that's quite the show too. So who knows if we end up on him?
Wouldn't it be funny if his name was like Frank Jones?
And he's like literally totally Hawaiian.
And like all the Alabama fans are trying to pronounce it weirdly because
because he's Hawaiian.
K in there is Frank Jones. But anyway, all right, I got to run. Right. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide. See you, man.
All right, buddy. I'll see you.
Bye.